T-Mobile, the company that sends data to your phone so you can watch TikTok videos in the forest and wonder why you're not getting the benefits of being outside. I'll cover what they do, some numbers, go over their network details, perform a SWOT analysis, and look at what the CEO's 2025 future outlook is. This is not financial advice, and here's what they do in a single sentence. Boiled down, they transfer data, either through the airwaves or through broadband. They also do sell equipment, but without plans, people just buy it straight from the manufacturer. The first way is mobile data, so you can watch Instagram Reels on the highway. Hopefully you're not the one driving. They maintain their cell network through antennas, either on these metal things or on other tall structures. You can place multiple antennas on a cell tower, so many companies often share cell towers, because as long as you're not on the same frequency, no interference. It's estimated that they own around 75,000 towers and they lease many more. I mean, their total lease expense for 2024 was $5.964 billion. The lease terms generally range from 5 to 15 years with the option to extend. They innovated by launching their 5G network in 2019 and have taken significant steps since then. They've built out their network and they are a massive player. Since 5G is complicated, I mean there are multiple types, you have to go over interference, you need to know what spectrum is. We'll cover all of that at a later point in the video once we go over the basics of T-Mobile as a company. The second is Wi-Fi. You generally have a stronger connection and it's possibly wired. I mean, imagine playing video games without an Ethernet connection. That would be a travesty of the highest proportions. Your first option for Wi-Fi is broadband. It's cheaper, it's decently fast. I mean, you can stream 4K videos on it and you'll get speeds between 25 and 100 megabytes per second. But it's much slower than fiber optic. With fiber optic, you can get speeds of over 1 gigabyte per second. Over 50% of US households have it, and it is still growing. They also have a plan to take advantage of any excess 5G network capacity that they may have. They send the mobile data directly to your home router, and you can use that just as a regular router. Although keep in mind that this is excess capacity. Cellular data for mobile devices like your phone, not through your router, but actual phone plans will be prioritized first. So speeds do depend on many factors like the number of phones in your area, the weather. They currently have 6.4 million users, which is up 1.7 million compared to last year. It is very popular and they do have a waiting list. Here's what the CEO had to say about it.
It's about finding pockets all across this country of capacity where no normal amount of mobile usage anytime soon will take up our capacity and where we approve applicants for fixed wireless. So that's our fallow capacity model.
While they do offer some home internet solutions, most of T-Mobile is phone plans. Their total customer count, as of the most recent data, Q1 2025, is 131 million people. They split up their customer groups into two types. There's postpaid and prepaid. Postpaid is when you pay at the end of the month, and it's comprised of 80 million phone plan users and 26 million tablets, wearables, and other devices. Then there's prepaid. You pay before you use your data, and it's comprised of 25 million users. They don't distinguish by device type here. It goes from being pretty stable to a 50% bump due to the Sprint merger, and their base is finally mixing. In 2020, they did stop reporting their wholesale customer count, and to help with comparability, I did remove it from the previous data. Here's a snapshot if you want to see what the data is like with the wholesale count included. This will still be reflected in revenue both in the past and now, but I just removed it from the customer count. But after the merger, again, pretty stable and a little bit of growth. If we're going to compare the customer count to the other big players, AT&T has 118 million users, while Verizon's in first place at 146 million. Both AT&T and T-Mobile gained over 100,000 customers. In T-Mobile's case, well over 100,000, but Verizon actually lost 101,000 customers. All of this was just from one quarter. T-Mobile's strategy is the Un-carrier model. It started in 2013 and they dropped contracts, subsidized phones, and coverage fees for data, and it has performed pretty well. They are number one with a market cap of $286 billion. Let's just give them a round of applause because they started out pretty small and now they are the top dog. Their most popular plan is their Go 5G Plus. With that, you get unlimited data domestically, a little bit internationally, 5G support, and some other more minor things. With unlimited calling and texting, of course. If they didn't have it, I would look at them just a little funny. Now let's take a look at churn, which is a measure of how many people cancel in a given period. This is pretty different among post and prepaid, by the way. This is one of the reasons why postpaid is preferred. Lower churn combined with some pricier plans makes it a little nicer for the company. It did jump up due to some price increases, but that was in line with expectations, although over the long term, apart from the most recent quarter, it generally has been trending down. Again, it's still lower than both AT&T and Verizon at 0.92 and 1.06% respectively. Now let's talk 2024 full year revenues. And in addition to post and prepaid, Wholesale revenues are included in service revenues here. Now, what is wholesale? That's when T-Mobile allows partners to sell access to some of their network. It includes stuff like machine to machine, for example, a temperature and location sensor in a truck that'll send that data to a dashboard at the head office. Here's the CEO's statement on why they do wholesale.
Okay, first on wholesale, it's a pretty straightforward algorithm. We look for partners that are able to go after audiences in a better way than we can go after them with our existing brands. You know, brands have a certain amount of pliability, but there are audiences and pockets of opportunity out there that partners are better positioned with an alternative brand to go after in a cost-effective way. And that's what we generally look for.
It includes MVNOs too, who buy network space from one of the big threes and resell it to consumers without building out their entire infrastructure, because that costs a lot of money. Now, the service for those MVNOs are usually a little bit worse, and generally they get slowed when T-Mobile's customers need them and the network is at capacity. That's what Mint Mobile was, you know, the company that Ryan Reynolds sold to T-Mobile.
You okay, Ryan?
Yeah, just super excited. Yeah. When do we hug?
I think we better do it.
I think we better do it right now. Oh, God. Nice to have a new dad.
The last category is equipment. It's not included in service revenues because it's the sale of actual physical devices. The total revenues are $81.4 billion, which is up 4% compared to last year, and it did increase partially because people picked some higher tiered plans and they increased the prices. Over the longer term, it grew by 9.6% annually. This market is kind of mature. Unless data needs start growing really fast, it'll remain at around these same levels. Although at the same time, that is sort of happening. I mean, as you stream 4K videos instead of 1080p, you need more capacity to send all of that through. Also, the Internet of Things is expected to grow to 50 billion devices by 2030. That's when devices essentially send information to and from each other, kind of like the temperature sensor that I was talking about on the truck. And let's also put a buzzword in here, something that could grow: AI. They also will be building more 5G to grow and maintain their lead. So putting all that together, according to Grandview Research, the industry is expected to grow at around 6.5% annually for the next 5 years. But T-Mobile isn't just limited by that, because T-Mobile is also focused on taking market share too. Now let's shift to the basics. 5G. What is it? It's essentially a faster data transfer speed. All mobile data is just data in a wavelength format that's emitted by the cell tower and picked up by your phone. Now, the more condensed the wavelength, the more information that it can send per unit of time. But at the same time, because life is never this nice, the more condensed the wave, the less distance it can travel. It'll also get stopped or slowed easier by objects. For example, a wall, a leaf, rain even. They have three main speeds used commercially. There's low band, which is between 50 and 250 megabytes per second. It's decently fast, decently wide coverage. It's basically a better version of LTE or 4G. Then there's mid-band between 100 and 900 megabytes per second. It's a lot faster, but this is when things like walls start to really interfere with the signal and strength that you're gonna get. Then there's high band or millimeter wave. It ranges between 1 and 10 gigabytes per second. Although 10 requires near perfect conditions. When you're walking out and about, you're probably not gonna get that. You're probably gonna get closer to 1, although you're gonna need to maintain a very good line of sight. Because if stuff gets in between you and the tower, your cell signal is going to drop dramatically. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to build out a massive 5G network infrastructure. And there also is a question about use case. When do you need 1 gigabyte per second download or upload speeds? Although we could go into it, like the famous alleged Bill Gates quote, because he has denied saying this, 640 kilobytes ought to be enough for anybody. Well, today we measure memory in gigabytes. T-Mobile has invested a significant amount into this, and they are in first place. Although each network is optimized for slightly different things. But T-Mobile is at 54%, while AT&T is at 30% and Verizon's at 13%. To roll out both 5G and regular data, you have to build out the infrastructure and acquire spectrum rights. Spectrum is the right to use airwaves, because initially there was a problem. The problem is if there are two signals on the same frequency, that signal becomes gibberish. Nobody can understand that. And so it has to be managed. That job belongs to the FCC. They have to make a lot of people happy. They have to make the military happy, the AM/PM radio people, cell providers, even autonomous vehicles now too. T-Mobile can get these rights by acquiring them at auction from the FCC or by buying them from the other companies. In 2024, they had net purchases of $3.9 billion worth of spectrum licenses. That figure was slowly built up over years. Back to the financials. Due to the revenue bump and some decreases in expenses, net income was 36% higher than it was last year. This bump follows last year's incredible results too. And if you're asking why do they make so much more money all of a sudden, there was a significant reduction in cost of services, the majority of which were the final touch-ups due to the Sprint merger, and equipment, because people ended up buying less equipment. Those two categories alone saved T-Mobile $6 billion, with the rest coming from more smaller categories. With all that money, they decided to go on an acquisition spree. They bought Kaina, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but they're the parent company of Mint and Ultramobile. They also got Lumos and Metronet, which are some fiber optic infrastructure companies. They bought others, but the last one I'm going to mention is US Cellular's wireless operations. They bought some of their spectrum, they leased 2,100 more towers, and extended leases on 600 of them that they already leased, and that was for $4.4 billion worth of cash and taking on some of their debt. Note that not all of these are closed, and some of them are subject to regulatory approval. Now let's take a look at their balance sheet. It takes a lot of money to build out some 5G infrastructure, and they also bought Sprint, although that was for a lot of stock. They have quite a lot of debt today. To be specific, $76 billion worth of long-term debt today. And while they do have lots of debt, they also do have a lot of assets to back that up. Their debt to asset ratio is in line with the competition. Take a look at these below.
I'd just like to say sorry for my phone quality audio because I forgot to plug in the mic, so you're stuck with that. Regarding return on capital, stock performance wise, T-Mobile is exceptional. They crush the S&P. Verizon and AT&T are relatively flat, although it's not wholly representative because AT&T and Verizon do pay dividends while T-Mobile just started paying a dividend out last year. Each company is a little bit different. Here's a stat sheet if you want to take a deeper dive into them. One thing that you should be aware of is that T-Mobile does have a 51% controlling party. It's called Deutsche Telekom. I may have absolutely butchered the pronunciation. They do have a vested interest in T-Mobile's success and have performed relatively well, but that is something you should be aware of. Their CEO is named Mike Sievert. He joined in 2012 and was promoted to CEO in 2020. The most fun time possible. He does maintain a relatively significant amount of shares. Moving on to a SWOT analysis, starting off with strengths. They have strong growth and are just taking market share from other companies. Their infrastructure, both 5G and regular data, is significant. It takes a lot of money and a lot of time to build all that out, and it is very hard to compete with. Their barriers to entry are pretty high. They make significant profits and do pay out dividends. Some weaknesses is that they have lots of debt. Also, equipment revenues are down because people are simply buying technology and new phones less often. I mean, to be fair, this is a maturing industry. I mean, look, this is the iPhone 16, this is the iPhone 12. There are a few differences, but it's not that big. Same 4-year difference, but there are a few more changes. I mean, let's just start here. 5G, the screen size, cameras, there are a lot more software changes compared to the previous one. There's also the Face ID. Some opportunities is that the need to transfer information is not going down. It's only really going up. Acquisitions could help, although that could also be a waste. The jury's still out on that. Threats. There are a lot of reports of SIM swap hacking. That's when hackers call a carrier and trick them to move your phone number to a different phone. Then they get the verification code, further two-factor authentication, and T-Mobile could be potentially liable for those because they could drain your bank accounts, just access your emails, and a whole lot of other stuff too. They could also end up being treated as a utility because I would argue that internet access today is as crucial as electricity. And I don't feel like I'm the only one who can make that claim. So if they raise prices too much, regulations are going to come down. Because of Starlink, towers are just less and less needed in rural areas. Now, while that is pretty good, I mean, no one wants to build towers to serve like 3 people. That could end up slowly eating some of T-Mobile's customer base. And while the speeds aren't fiber optic level, they are more than satisfactory to play FPS games on. They are pricey, but it is an alternative to fiber, broadband, and cell towers, and they do have a partnership with T-Mobile. So you can, on T-Mobile, if you're just out and about in the middle of nowhere, no cell tower in sight, you can send a text and it will get sent through Starlink. They have opened it up for the other carriers, both AT&T and Verizon as well, so T-Mobile does also start to benefit from Starlink's network. Now for the 2025 outlook as of April 24, 2025. They estimate their postpaid net additions for the year to be between 5.5 and 6 million customers. They also expect to put around $9.5 billion towards equipment and property, which is in line with the amount that they've spent in the last couple of years. That's T-Mobile, the company that will connect you to the digital world all the time, for all time. Like, sub, and goodbye, people.